Ikekerenmadu, are a senator in Nigeria's National Assembly.
Please watch this video.
You have held high political office. You had many staff, including domestic staff, maids, chefs and drivers.
Money is nothing.
You own multiple properties around the globe.
What is good?
There is evidence of as many as 40.
I'm telling
More
you,
than
sometimes we think that
£400,000
everything
went
is
into your
about
bank
money,
account
about
over a
power.
6-month
Took
period.
this boy from Nigeria.
By contrast, C was unable to afford a £25 fare to travel from Lagos to Abuja.
You have the money. You're supposed to make
You
it public.
each conspired together to
Somebody
bring
will
C
come
to
out
the
publicly
UK
and
in
offer
order
that-
to exploit
offer
him.
need to have.
You all
But
knew
took
that
this boy
was
because you
unlawful.
felt that you would get it cheaper.
You, Ikekerenmadu, had been part of the legislature that had introduced the law that made that conduct a criminal offence in Nigeria. You, Abina Abeta, secured the visa.
People have killed Igbo.
You did so by telling a lie that
Just
C
imagine
and
you,
Sonia were cousins,
a former
the
vice
same
president
lie
of
that
the
you had
Republic
told
of
in
Nigeria,
respect of you
Federal
and
Republic
your
of Nigeria.
donor.
Your
You
political
also
career,
secured a fabricated
your
affidavit
political career and everything.
testifying to their relationship as cousins,
I think
just
this
as you
will
had
teach
done
others
for
a
your
very big
transplant.
lesson. I think it will teach others
You,
very big lesson.
Ikekerenmadu,
All
also
your
fall
political
within the high
careers and
culpability
everything.
bracket. You also played a leading role in the offending,
Look at
and
you.
to a greater extent than Abina Abeta, who was acting through Ikekerenmadu at your
When
direction.
they tell you people to calm down,
You did
do
so
good
in
to
order
people
to
that you
secure
can't.
a material
You're
advantage,
people
namely a human
Now
kidney
you are
for
in
your
London.
daughter.
You'll be going
You
to
were
prison.
involved in a
You
high
see
degree
any
of
people
planning
talk about
and
you, you see
premeditation.
any Hausa Fulani talk
For
about
example,
you.
you orchestrated the arrangements with your brother, Dewey. You sought to
Nobody.
conceal your
But when they
link
tell you
to the
people
payment of a
to support
donor
people,
reward
be your
by
brother,
instructing a member of your staff
people will not hear
to
it.
make the payment
You people
via
will
a
not
currency
hear
trader.
Now you are alone. on
You
your
were
own. That is
involved
Nigeria.
in the corruption
That
of
is
a member
Nigeria
of
for you.
hospital staff. I reject
that
the
ball
defence suggestion
because you
that you were
fight for
naive as to offers or payments of a reward to the donor, or that you only joined the conspiracy
You
at a
can
late
even throw it
stage.
open publicly.
I am satisfied so that
People
I
will
am sure
voluntarily
that
give
you were
it
the
to you and you pay
driving
them.
force throughout.
The person will sign a paper for you,
Reliance is placed on the
showing
fact that you had no
agreed
contact
doing
with
it,
C
that you took this
or
boy
Abina
because you
Abeta.
felt you were a senator
That is
of the
true,
Republic of Nigeria.
but it is an indicator
You took that
But it is
boy
an
to
indicator of the leading role you played,
small boy.
directing the
You
overall
are facing the
operation,
law. You think you are in
but
Nigeria.
keeping your
UK
distance
is not Nigeria.
by getting others
They
to
don't
do
care
your
about
bidding.
you.
I accept that
They
you were
don't
not
care.
directly involved in the
They
fabrication
don't
of
give
an
a heck
affidavit,
about you.
and that you told Sonia
You are
not to
facing
sign
the
it.
law. The law you made. you
Again,
are facing
in
it.
context,
Where?
that is consistent with the
Yes,
type of
you are
leading
facing the
role
law.
you played.
Because you are too
You
a
well knew
citizen,
the sorts
so
of
you are facing the
steps
law there too.
that were being
Our
taken
senators here
to
are
try
doing
and pull the
that they
wool
can
over the
do.
eyes of the doctors and
You are going to
regulators.
jail with your wife.
I am satisfied that you, Beatrice Ekweremadu, performed more limited functions under the direction of your husband.
It's nothing.
I accept the
It's
submission
nothing.
of Anu Mahindru King's Council
Money and power.
that your family was patriarchal
Sometimes.
and you were deferential to your husband.
And you have money.
Your role was primarily to adopt the cousin lie. There was, so far as you are concerned, some limited planning and premeditation. You committed the offence in the expectation of a material advantage, namely securing a kidney for your daughter. Your case falls at the cusp of lower and medium culpability.
Well, at least this will teach
Before allowing for aggravating and mitigating factors, the applicable starting points are custodial sentences of 10 years in the case of Abina Abeta, 10 years and 6 months in the case of Ikekerenmadu, and 6 years in the case of Beatrice Ekweremadu. Abina Abeta, stand up, please. There are aggravating features in your case. You deliberately targeted a victim who was particularly vulnerable due to his young age, his isolation from his immediate family, and his poverty. After the conspiracy to exploit C was thwarted, you continued to try and find another person to be exploited in the same way. As against that, you have no previous convictions, and you are a person of good character. I accept that you have done much good work as a medical doctor. You also have your own serious medical condition, as someone who has himself undergone a kidney transplant. I've taken account of the medical evidence. That does not suggest that your condition cannot be adequately managed in custody. I consider that the mitigating and aggravating factors are in balance. I sentence you to 10 years imprisonment, subject to allowing for the time for which you have been remanded in custody. You will spend 2/3 of that time in custody and will then be on licence until the end of your sentence. You can sit down, please. Senator Ikekerenmadu, stand up, please. There are substantial aggravating features in your case. You knew that the donor was vulnerable because of his young age and his poverty. You had a profound understanding of the impact of poverty because of the work you have done for the ECOA Foundation. You gave direct instructions to ensure that tight control was exercised over C. Once the transplant did not go ahead, you immediately sought to find another person to be exploited in the same way, rapidly managing to identify several potential candidates. As against that, you have your own ongoing health problems. You have no previous convictions and were a person of good character. I accept Mr. Hicks KC's description of you as having exceptionally positive good character, and that your conviction represents a very substantial fall from grace. You set up the ECOA Foundation and have funded that organisation, which undertakes a very great deal of valuable charitable work to help those living in poverty in Nigeria. At trial, there was a great deal of character witness testimony, including from Archbishop Emmanuel Chukwuma, the Archbishop for the Diocese of Enugu. I have been provided with a bundle of 51 pages of character statements for the purpose of sentencing. I have read all of them. They include statements from a former president of Nigeria, the current president of the Senate, the Bishop of Enugu, the Attorney General and the Chief Law Officer of Nigeria, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. That evidence speaks to your role in helping to establish and maintain democracy in Nigeria, and also as an international peacemaker. The evidence also includes moving pleas advanced by some of those who have benefited from your generosity and good works, and also a moving statement from your daughter, Sonia. I take all of that into account. Why can't he do it? It amounts to substantial mitigation. You were motivated by the despair of your daughter's very serious illness. The weight to be attached to that factor is limited by reason of the fact that, as you recognized in your evidence, you could have sought a genuinely altruistic donation, including from a family member, albeit not Sonia's immediate siblings. After taking account of the aggravating and mitigating factors in your case, I impose a sentence of 9 years and 8 months imprisonment, subject to allowing for the time which you have spent remanded in custody. You will serve 2/3 of the sentence in custody and will be on licence thereafter for the rest of the sentence.
Okay?
You can sit down.
Don't be too proud, because maybe
Dr.
God takes you where you were
Beatrice
today.
Ikekerenmadu, would you
Don't
stand
be so
up, please?
proud. Okay?
In your case, I adopt a starting point of 6 years custody.
Don't be proud.
I do not consider that the aggravating factors that are present
Former
in the
Vice
case of your
Former
co-defendants
Vice,
apply to you.
Senate
You were
President
not directly
in
involved
Nigeria
in the
today
identification of the donor,
prisoner.
and the evidence does not show that you were directly involved in the attempts to identify a further donor after the transplant did not go ahead.
So surprised. He think he
I take account of all the mitigating features that Mr. Mahindra KC has identified, and the content of the thorough
That's why we
and
need
helpful
change in
pre-sentence
this.
report
We need change in
prepared by Jessica Stephen of the Probation Service. You are a person of good character.
This is the one
You
we
helped
see.
set up the
The ones we
ECOA
don't see
Foundation
now.
with your husband,
The
and
ones
you
we
have been
don't
closely involved with its important charitable work. Much of the character evidence I have read applies also to you.
You went to London.
You were also motivated by the desperate plight of your daughter
Wow.
and by maternal love. Further, in your case, I accept that although Sonia is an adult, you have substantial caring responsibilities towards her. Your incarceration will have a significant impact on her, in that she will no longer be able to rely on your presence as a source of care and support. Having regard to those factors, I impose a sentence of 4 years and 6 months imprisonment. You have spent 234 days on an electronically monitored curfew between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. I specify that the credit period for the purposes of Section 240A of the Criminal Justice Act 2003 is 117 days. So that period shall count